Hey guys, how's it going? TheHaggardNerd here. Welcome to the first video in this hopefully long-running series of cider making with TheHaggardNerd. I guess that's what I'm going to call it. I have no idea yet. But this is a very special day for me, a very important day for me, because this is going to be the first batch that I've started in the past two and a half years. So yeah, I'm kind of nervous, but I think it's going to be fun because I've written down all my recipes from before and I still remember the process and everything. So I figured I'd go ahead and share that with you guys. So being that it's been a while since I've made any cider, what I'm doing is I'm starting off small, very, very easy. I picked up a gallon of pasteurized cider from Earth Fare. I found this on the shelf a couple days ago and figured that'd be a good way to step back into it without having to worry about dealing with multiple gallons of cider that could potentially go bad. So I figure 1 gallon would be a great place to start. So I know that not all of us can get fresh pressed juice straight from the orchard. So if you are interested in getting into cider making, you can get quality juice off store shelves. You just got to look for the right stuff. You don't want to go with Mott's, that stuff that basically looks like sugar water with yellow thrown in. Get some juice that is thick looking like this, that's hazy looking like this. If you can get the unfiltered kind, it's the best. It's the most natural, I think. Very important though, when you pick this up, make sure that you check the ingredients and make sure there are no preservatives whatsoever. If you can find pasteurized, that's exactly what you want to start with, because that provides a clean starting point for your yeast to thrive and be happy. If it has any sort of preservatives or anything, that's going to inhibit your yeast growth and it's going to throw off a lot of bad flavors if it does actually ferment at all. So make sure you do not get anything with preservatives in it or you're going to have bad time. So this is the first time that we are opening the cider. I wanted to make sure that it kept it sealed so that way we didn't worry about contaminating the cider and we can give the yeast the best starting point possible to make good cider. So let's go ahead and open this. There we go. And what I like to do, just to kind of get it started, is taste test, just to kind of see what I'm starting with. That way it'll give me an idea of maybe what this cider is going to eventually taste like when it's done. So let's give that a try. All right, so immediately noticing that it's got a lot of sweetness to it, which means the ABV, if I let it ferment all the way down to 0, I'll explain that in a minute, then this is going to be a decently high, probably 6.5, 7%, maybe a little higher ABV cider, which is fine. It's going to be a little bit stronger, but it's going to be tasty. It's got a lot of nice tang, so it's got some malic acid there that gets you on the tip of your tongue, which is a nice, bright, what they call nose of a drink. As soon as you take the drink, you that immediate initial bright fizziness you get out of that from the carbonation and also the malic acid. That's the nose. There's a bit of tannin kind of in the back of the throat. And yeah, I really like this. I think this is actually going to turn out really good, assuming that the fermentation process goes according to plan. All right, so what I like to do to get started is I like to add a little bit of pectic enzyme. It says that it increases juice yields and prevents pectin haze. So basically starting out, this helps to glom onto like the pectins and drop everything out and helps pull as much of the juice out of the solids that drop to the bottom as possible. So that way you can get the most flavor, probably up your ABV just a little bit. But I personally like to do this because I like to try to produce a clear cider, a good tasting cider. And for me, this is a good first starting step. It's not required, of course. You can go straight to pitching your yeast if that's something you want to do. But I generally start with pectic enzyme. So let's go ahead and do that. So for this, all we're going to need is our pectic enzyme. It's good to have measuring spoons for this so you can pay attention to the amounts that you're putting in and follow the directions. Here it says that you add 1/2 teaspoon per US gallon of juice. So super simple. We're just going to put a 1/2 teaspoon of the pectic enzyme into our cider. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and open this up. Grab my 1/2 teaspoon here. Get down in there. Make sure it's leveled nice and even. Don't add too much. Don't want to add too little. That looks to be about right. I've dripped a little bit there. So let's go ahead and just pop that in there. Nice and easy. Very good. Now, there's two more things that I'm going to do here. Number one, I got to shake this up. That way the pectic enzyme can get mixed in quite nice, and we don't have to worry about anything there. So let's go ahead and do that. Nothing fancy about this, you just got to do it. Make sure it's mixed up nice and good there. All the solids from the bottom is mixed into your juice. I got nice and fizzy. So the next step, if you're interested in tracking what the ABV is going to be eventually once it's done fermenting, what I would suggest is picking up a hydrometer. There are a few different types of hydrometers available, but the one that I use is the old school glass hydrometer. Let's see if we're lining this up. Yes, so this is a hydrometer. It's got a weight in the bottom to let it sink, and then it's got these markings here to kind of allow you to see what the ABV is currently. This one right here actually gives you your potential ABV, which is kind of cool. There's percent sugar, which is kind of interesting, and then you have your triple scale beer and wine hydrometer there. So assuming that you're around 60 degrees Fahrenheit, it's a little bit warmer than that here, so this is not going to be perfectly accurate, but I'm not really going for perfect accuracy here. What you do is you take it, your hydrometer, and you put it into this testing tube here. Now this is going to use some of our juice, and working with a single gallon, this does use a significant amount of the juice that you're going to be working with. So I'm trying to work with small amounts so I don't waste too much. So to get the starting ABV, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour this into the hydrometer until this thing floats. And once it floats, I'm done. And I'm absolutely not going to pour this back into there because there could be potential contaminants in there, and I want to try to avoid any contamination as possible. And you always want to make sure you avoid any contamination from here on out. Okay, so let's go ahead and pour this. I'm going to pour it slowly. As soon as I see it pop up, I'm going to stop. And there we go. It's up. All right, so we've only used a small amount of our juice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the lid back on that and let that sit. So now what we can do is we can look at our reading, and we can see here that is just past 1.05. And if we look at our potential ABV, there's the 10 marker. We'll let it drop down. So we're looking at 5, 6, 7, 7.25 maybe ABV, which is right around where I was saying it was going to be. So yeah, this is going to be a little bit of a stout drink, but it's going to be flavorful. So one thing that I would highly suggest if you're getting into cider making, if it's something you want to pursue, just even as a hobby, if you want to make good cider, I would highly suggest getting a binder, some sort of something to write down recipes in. If it's digital, that's fine too. But I actually have these sheets of paper, oops, where I write everything down, 2 batches per page, and I've done that for all 49 batches thus far. And that way I can go back and I can look and see what I did. I can take notes on what the ABV was. I can see what dates I did things. I can keep track of what types of ciders I use, what mixtures of apples I use if I do custom press apples for the juice. It allows me to basically take the best of the best recipes and then use those in future recipes and just go from there and make the best I can. Okay, so here I'm just going to go ahead and write down what I found out. So here we have a start action, which is just a column I have on my sheet here. The starting gravity was 1.05. So the starting gravity was 1.056. And then I'm going to put down approx ABV was, I believe, 7 something. 7.2. So there's one more step we have to do now that we've added the pectic enzyme. Now we wait. We have to wait about an hour before we can pitch our yeast, because that'll give the pectic enzyme a chance to do what it needs to do and work through the solids and kind of break those up and help us produce more juice and thus more cider. So just a quick note before we get into pitching the yeast and that whole process. Sanitation is very, very important to making good cider. Some people just wash a bucket with soap and water, throw some juice in there, pop an airlock on it, and that's what they get. But that cider is not going to be good as if you take actual proper sanitizing solution and basically put it in a spray bottle with a little bit of water and spray that down before you do things. That way it kills off any sort of germs, any sort of bacteria that might mess with your yeast and might contaminate your batch. That also, washing everything that you use in the process of fermentation, washing it in Star San. Star San is industry standard for kitchens and stuff like that. So this is very, very handy to have around. Just basically wash and wash again. First, make sure that it's clean from any grime. Second, Star San it, and then right before you use things, spray it with a little bit of sanitizer every step of the way, and that will ensure that you have no potential contaminants get into your cider. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and step away for a little bit and give our pectic enzyme a chance to do its thing, and then we'll get started with pitching the yeast and getting that all situated and get our fermentation started. So I'll catch you guys in a few.